Okay, councillors, so this item brings to us a proposal relating to our committee structure. I'm trying to get to it. And as you are aware, so this is very much a matter of how we manage our committee structure. Came off concerns being expressed to me about the number of committee meetings, in particular, and an underlying desire maybe to look at whether or not some of the committees should continue. And secondly, and I think probably the most focused for most of the people around the table, was a desire that we try and free up some time. And in particular, free up time to have workshops and briefings where we would be together through that process. In discussion with you really over the last 6 months, have expressed confidence in my initial construction of the committee structure in terms of the number of committees, except the budget committee that will be lapsed back into the finance and performance committee, and secondly that we would try and reduce the number of meetings to enable a greater number of workshops to occur. And I believe that that has very much captured the concerns being expressed by councillors. To be fair, much of that has been against the backdrop of a fairly intense meeting program through the long-term plan. But having said that, we've got half a term left, and this presents an opportunity for us to reflect on where we might be able to either bring back some of the former committee meetings and enlarge the scope for workshop meets. Councillors, I've listened to you all variously. I've talked to you all specifically, and we've had a number of meetings about how best to achieve this. What I am proposing, and has been discussed with you all variously over the last 3 or 4 months, is a way of getting some more meeting time amongst ourselves, particularly for workshops, briefings, against the backdrop of an increased demand for officer time to do that. Also, it presents an opportunity to release officers a little bit from some of the formal requirements. And so you'll be aware that I've looked to try and find these savings in terms of meeting time through our policy creation subcommittees, and that I am looking to reduce the number of meetings either to meetings twice or 3 times. So, councillors, some of you are the chairs of the meetings where we are seeking a greater reduction, and we're measuring that against the possibility, or what I see as the need for an even stronger focus in each of those policy forming committees to match up their work to our policy forming strategy, and secondly to work even closer with the Mayor's office in terms of forming that strategy. For example, Cathy's committee with the budget that we have approved now in terms of emergency housing and homelessness, and my desire that the strong leadership in that area come through Cathy, her committee, and my work as the Mayor of the city, so that we form and work very much in partnership. Councillors, none of these proposals is in any way at all intended to convey any sense of a lack of confidence or diminishing of confidence in any one of the chairs and the works that they are doing, whether it's in the committee of the whole, whether it's in policy forming committees, whether it's in a regulatory committee or whatever. I have been trying to find a way through a desire expressed by you all that we find some more time through our committee structure to try and achieve more workshop and briefing time. So I have therefore presented this as a way of achieving that against the backdrop of, by and large, an unchanged committee structure in itself. And so I am seeking your support for these recommendations, and I would seek a seconder. Thank you, Councillor George. All right, so it's open for discussion. Councillor Alf.
Thank you, Your Worship. Question first. Which committees identified in number 2 are the inefficient committee meetings? I mean, it's been put in here as inefficient committees. Is there any indication as to which ones have you been told about that have been inefficient, Your Worship?
Look, Councillor Alf, as I said in my opening comments, what we've tried to find is to marry up committee workload with policy workload and the delivery of policy development within a time frame that I think is eminently manageable, but also allows us the opportunity of actually getting out and getting more time together for workshops. So, Councillor Alf, I don't know whether there's any real benefit in over-exaggerating the issue of efficiency or inefficiencies?
Well, it's mentioned in the report, Your Worship, and the reason I'm mentioning and asking about the committees is because I would have thought that if these committees were identified early in the piece, at least you as the leader of this council would have at least sat down with those particular chairs and committees to at least find a way forward. This is why I asked the question. So yeah, you'll say no, so I will. Your Worship, I'm having that word inefficient in here, and you said in your opening brief that it doesn't reflect on the lack of confidence. Well, it does to me. It does to me. It does. And seeing this report and reading it twice, I actually thought it did reflect badly on the chairs. I am going to just limit my comments to my committee, and Your Worship, you're wrong when you say that it was from you all. I have never expressed my concern or a concern around the committee structure that you put in place, not only in the first term but also in the second. Never. Because I believe that when you put the committee structure through, you thought about it, not only with yourself but also the staff. You thought about it. Now it seems that you could well be listening to some of the councillors that have been active verbally around the committee structure that you've now, I was going to use sucked in, but that's not the one. I'm trying to find a nice word. That's not a good choice of word. No, look, well, I'm saying that there's a nice word, but I can't think about it. So what I'm saying, Your Worship, is that it's a shame that you've got to this point now. It really is. From my perspective, it's a shame that you've got to this point where you're now second-guessing exactly the committee structure that you put in place. Your Worship, when you ended up in the first term talking about a livable city, I remember the first meeting we attended at the hotel in regards to the arts, and that was your big push in 2010. Then we had a meeting later on in the town hall, same thing about a livable city, and as a result, we've now adopted our strategic action plan for the arts. And you've indicated in here, to me anyway, that you don't really care about the action plan that we're putting. Hang on. Stop, let me finish.
Stop, Councillor Alf, stop. Now, look, I accept that there's a point to be made here, but I just think that you've got to be a little bit wary about imputing certain motives that I do not have at all. I've set out right at the outset, Councillor Alf, that what I've tried to achieve here is a closer alignment to policy formation, and secondly, to try and find some scope around the agenda, and that is most certainly what I was listening to the councillors on. So don't sort of say that I have no or less interest in the arts. Hardly. So, you know, let's just keep it focused on whether or not there's a good case to maintain.
It is, and I'm still disappointed, Your Worship, in the fact that, let me finish, still disappointed in the fact that there is not an option in here or that we keep the status quo.
Right.
So, in regards to my committee again, what you've left out, Your Worship, from my perspective, is the public. You really have. You've left them out in the cold to the ability to go to a workshop. That workshop, not in the public arena, but just amongst the councillors. You've let the public down, from my perspective, in regards to allowing them to go through and to also have it every 3 months in regards to my committee. And to me, it is a slap in the face. And the public input, I've always had that, and all the councils around there have had public input as a key to getting out into our community and also travelling the area. So, Your Worship, I will not be supporting the recommendations that you have here. And quarterly, for me, and I can only speak for myself, it is a slap in the face for my committee. If those people on my committee, I would rather have 5 councillors who are dedicated in regards to the arts and culture than having 7 or 8 and the others don't turn up. I'd rather have only 5 and have the quorum at 3.